Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, how are my snipers doing today? I hope you guys are doing fantastic. Listen, today we're going to be talking about the one and only Turbo Coin. And listen, I have very important data, especially if you're going to be looking to sell this coin. I know the way I worded it might sound funny, but listen, some people do marry their coins and never end up selling. So yeah, so this is going to be very important. Before we jump into the technical analysis, we can see that Binance US just a couple hours ago, shouted out Turbo once again. So, they said some facts about us, and that's always going to put a little bit more of the spotlight on us, right? Just simply getting a shout out from, Binance, this specific Twitter, Binance US has 500,000 followers. So that is what we love to see. Now we're going to talk about the short-term move because this week has been very slow, and then we're going to be talking about the important data. So we can see, ladies and gentlemen, that over the last couple of days, Turbo has just been kind of slowly but surely grinding its way out. Nothing too crazy, but you know what? This is setting it up for the future, and this is what I'm talking about. So if we go to the weekly candles, right, if we go to the indicators and use the global liquidity index, something that I noticed, ladies and gentlemen, is that it matches practically perfectly with the global liquidity index. So if we take it from, we take this measuring tool, we take it from the top and we go over here, sorry, not over this one to this one, right? This one over here, it's 91 days. And if you know, and you've been paying attention on this channel, watching other videos, you know that I talk about that Bitcoin is also 91 days delayed. So we are perfectly in sync, right? We take it from the top of the global liquidity and we go to the Turbo top, we can see 91 days. If we go from the bottom and then we go to the last red candle, guess what? 91 days. Okay. And we can see that, Turbo, it's been moving well. Even if we go, I remember there was another one, I believe it was this top over here to this, right? This one wasn't quite 91 days, it was 84, but it was, within the same area, right? 84 to 91 days, within the same range. So right, 1 week or this way or that way, it won't make too much of a difference, right? Because once you're approaching all-time highs for liquidity, you should already be taking out your money. But look, ladies and gentlemen, what does that mean? Well, right, if we take it from the bottom, right, this global liquidity, we take it to the bottom here, 91 days. All right, so let's take it to the next relevant range. Let's take it from this bottom, right? Because we could see over here, it spikes before we have another nice run of the global liquidity. And if we do that, if we take it from this bottom, we go 91 days, we can see that that is going to be next week. Next week, we are going to hit that 91-day mark. So what is that telling me? That is telling me, ladies and gentlemen, that Turbo within the next 2 weeks, let's say maximum, and I'm being generous, is going to pump extremely heavily. Okay, extremely heavily. So I'm super excited. And what does this mean for Turbo also? Well, if we go to the tops over here of global liquidity and we go out, we can see if we go 91 days, that is mid-July. So maybe it's possible by mid-July we get back to all-time highs, or maybe even start pushing a little bit higher before that. And then we have a little bit of a dip before we continue going up. We can see the global liquidity is getting updated because when I was already using this indicator 1 or 2 weeks ago, we didn't have this line going back up. We just had it going down. So listen, ladies and gentlemen, that the tops for Turbo, the short-term tops, might be mid-July, right? And if global liquidity does continue to rise like it should, based off all the data that I follow every single day, then global liquidity might still be rising for another few, even months, just another few short months, 3 to 6 months, right? So, by July, there's a great chance that we're going to be back at all-time highs. And once we get past that mid-July point, there's a great chance that we are going to be pumping super heavy for those couple of weeks. And that's when altcoin season is going to start, right? We know on this channel that altcoin season is most likely going to happen once we reach a certain amount of percentage in terms of Bitcoin dominance, right? We believe it's going to be anywhere between 69 and 74%. And yes, although that is a decently big range, the main thing that we're looking for is, some type of reversal signs and a big sell-off, right? Just as long as we kind of just get into the zone and then we just sell off, right? We can see something like Bitcoin dominance, it is and has broken structure. So we're going to see that if, hey, is this going to just go lower to then, go lower to then recover and go up? Or are we going to break structure and potentially be going lower? Because if we start breaking structure to the downside, then that may be an indication that altcoin season is here, and maybe one of the very big first pumps for Turbo will actually be near the end of July, and we will be past the all-time highs at that point. Okay, so we're going to be watching and monitoring Bitcoin dominance, because if Bitcoin dominance does break below, the 62% like I just marked up, then, Turbo by July could already be up here, or up here. Okay, if Bitcoin dominance does just continue to go up like I expect it to, then there's a great chance by July we will hit all-time highs. See, ladies and gentlemen, even just in terms of the 3-month candles, we talked about how I believe April, May, June was going to be the recovery candles, right? And so far we are on track. Yes, we slowed down a little bit, but the next few weeks should be very, very massive. June is most likely going to be a very, very nice candle for Turbo. Now, I know I said, hey, look, there may be some type of reversals and stuff like that, but the data just continues to prove to be green. And as long as we just continue to go the way we are, there is no big bearish momentum or anything like that. Especially that we showed, and the indicator, right? The indicator has been accurate multiple times, or within a week, it just had a difference. But generally, it's been on point every single time. So yeah, ladies and gentlemen, this is something very, very important. It's very, very nice. It keeps things simple because, look, yes, like the thing is with global liquidity index, we're consistent. We are consistent. We also have the 91-day rule. If it's at 75 days this way, 105 this way, 91 days this way, 50 days this way, then it would be very, very annoying. It would be very, very hard to estimate when Turbo is going to be pumping. Okay. But since the data is very, very accurate, it is on track and exactly moves the way Bitcoin does in terms of it, then we could very well time the actual tops when it comes to selling our altcoins or selling Turbo in the near future, right? In the next couple of months. But yeah, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you guys are excited. The next big leg for Turbo will be happening within that 1 to 2 week span, right? If it's not going to happen next week, then it's going to happen the week after that. And we most likely will be going to the 0.008 before we maybe slow down just for a little bit to consolidate and then push up higher once again, right? Push up higher once again. Overall, by mid or even beginning of July or mid-July, we could be already expecting to see all-time highs. So, very, very exciting. Very, very exciting. The next few months are going to change your life. Make sure to subscribe. We will be, saying when to sell. And yeah, that is, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I'll talk to you guys next time. Goodbye. Portfolio reviews, economic and global updates and news, frequent up-to-date technical analysis, and a very supportive community. Sell and buy calls and trading education is provided. If that sounds good to you, now is the time to act. Once the markets start moving, there is no I should have, coulda, woulda. Now is the time. If you want to take things to another level, we have the blueprint that covers everything from A to Z in crypto that you need. No fluff, no bullshit, just the most important news, fundamentals, and technicals to have you succeed in these markets.